A lower car payment can feel like a win. But sometimes the option that looks cheaper each month quietly costs more once the whole story is finished. So which one actually comes out ahead? What feels smart in month 1 can look very different in year 3, year 6, and year 10. So let me ask you, are you buying a driving experience or are you buying long-term control? We're not doing dealership psychology today. We're doing the full timeline. By the end, you'll see where leasing feels better, where buying gets stronger, and the one question that makes the whole decision much clearer. Meet Liam and Noah. Same income, same target car, same starting point. That's important because this only gets interesting once the comparison feels fair. Liam can drive away in a brand new sedan for $299 a month. Noah chooses the loan, which means $522 a month. That extra $223 instantly changes how the decision feels. Most people don't compare the whole transaction first. They compare the monthly feeling. And that shortcut is exactly why a car decision can sound smart before the deeper math even shows up. There's a real reason leasing is attractive. Everything feels fresh, simple, and protected. No surprise repair headlines, no aging interior. Just a clean monthly number and a car that still feels brand new. That's the whole game here. Not what feels lighter today. What does this car really cost once the lease renews, the loan ends, the value changes, and life keeps moving? A monthly payment is real, but it's incomplete. It tells you what leaves your account this month, not what you're building, what you're giving up, or how long the commitment keeps following you. Even the down payment can mislead you. A slightly smaller upfront number feels like relief, but it doesn't tell you whether you're reducing future cost or just delaying how the cost shows up. Leasing buys peace early. Buying buys a finish line later. Both have value. The mistake is pretending they're the same kind of value just because both involve the same car. Ownership comes with an emotional tax in the beginning, watching the car's value fall faster than you'd like. That's one reason buying can feel disappointing before it becomes efficient. By year 2, Noah can hit an uncomfortable moment. The loan balance is still around $22,000, but the car may only be worth around $20,000. That gap is what people mean by underwater. Now the comparison gets dramatic. After 3 years, Liam has spent $12,764. Noah has spent $21,792. On paper, Liam looks like he's winning by almost 10 grand. And this is where a lot of people stop the analysis. They see the lower 3-year spend, declare the lease smarter, and never ask what happens the moment those 36 months run out. Year 3 is not the answer. It's the checkpoint where leasing still feels smoother and buying still feels heavier. The real comparison starts once one path resets and the other keeps moving toward ownership. For Liam, leasing delivers exactly what it promises: a fresh car, a smooth ride, and very little repair friction during those first years. That convenience is real, and it matters. For Noah, ownership asks for patience. The payment is higher, the car is depreciating, and the emotional payoff hasn't arrived yet. Early ownership often feels like effort before it feels like progress. Here's what's easy to miss. Even when buying feels heavier, it is still moving somewhere. Each payment leaves less road ahead. That invisible progress becomes very important later. Leasing also trains you into a rhythm. New car, simple payment, new car again. The experience stays pleasant, but the structure can quietly turn into a habit of permanent renewal. At the 3-year mark, Noah isn't done, but he's not restarting either. He has 24 payments left, and that matters because the commitment now has a visible endpoint. This is the turning point. Leasing is often a conveyor belt. Buying is often a finish line. One keeps the driving experience fresh, the other keeps moving toward an end. And that's the pattern many leasers follow. The contract ends, the car goes back, and a new lease begins. The odometer resets, but the payment structure usually does not. So now we stop looking at the monthly feeling, and we jump to the first really revealing checkpoint: 6 years. Same starting car, same people, very different ending positions. Liam's second lease doesn't feel dramatic. That's the point. It feels smooth, familiar, and reasonable. but structurally he has just restarted the payment machine from the beginning. This is the quiet trick of the lease cycle. The car feels new again, so your brain treats it like a reset, but financially, the payment stream just keeps rolling forward. Noah's situation still isn't glamorous, but it's changing shape. The finish line is now close enough to feel real, and once a loan nears the end, the whole math starts to feel different. At month 60, something simple but powerful happens. Noah's payment ends. The car is still there. The monthly obligation is not. That shift is where ownership starts getting much stronger. At 6 years, Liam has spent $25,528. Noah has spent $34,320. If you stop at total cash out, Noah still looks worse. But Noah doesn't end year 6 with nothing. He ends with a car still worth roughly $11,000 to $13,000. That remaining value changes the comparison in a big way. Once you subtract what Noah still owns, his effective cost lands around $22,000. That means by year 6, the path that looked worse early can actually be the cheaper one. This is where appearance and control separate. Liam may still look like he's doing better because the car is newer. Noah may actually have more room in his budget because the payment has ended. The 6-year flip surprises people because the monthly lens and the end state lens tell different stories. If you only look at the first one, the second one arrives late and feels counterintuitive. Cars usually lose value fastest early, then the drop slows down. That means later years of ownership can be much more efficient than most people assume when they only remember the first depreciation hit. The strongest ownership years often arrive after the loan ends. You still have transportation, but the monthly drag is gone. That creates financial room that a constant lease cycle never quite reaches. And if Noah keeps the car just one more year, the gap can widen quickly. Ownership gets stronger when the asset keeps doing its job after the financing part is already finished. Give the comparison even more time, and the structure matters more than the monthly headline ever did. The question isn't just what costs less today, it's what keeps costing later. One way to picture it is this: leasing often keeps the machine fed. Buying often asks for more effort up front, then gets easier once the financing work is done. So the basic pattern is clear now. Leasing often wins the early comfort test. Buying often wins the later total value test. But we're still missing some lease costs that can make the difference even bigger. Because the monthly payment isn't the only place lease cost hides. Sometimes it's buried in the rules around how you drive, how you return the car, and how much flexibility you really have. Standard leases usually come with mileage limits, often around 10,000 to 12,000 miles a year. If your routine changes, that neat payment can stop feeling so neat. Lease mileage penalties can sound minor because they're measured in cents, but cents per mile across a full year of extra driving can quietly become a meaningful bill. Then there's wear and tear. The car you used normally can get judged by return standards that feel stricter than everyday life, especially if you expected a simple handoff. Some leases also end with a disposition fee, often a few $100s just to return the car. It's not always the biggest cost, but it reinforces the same pattern. The exit is rarely free. Another hidden issue is flexibility. If you need out early, leasing can get complicated and expensive fast. That matters more than people expect, because life rarely stays perfectly predictable. A lease can also make you think differently about the car itself. You're not just using it, you're preserving it for return. That changes how freely the car can serve your life. There's also a mental cost. Leasing can keep you in permanent comparison mode, always noticing the next refresh, the next trim, the next reason to start over instead of step off the cycle. None of this means leasing is always wrong. It means the convenience comes with rules and hidden friction. And to be fair, buying brings its own trade-offs once the warranty period ends. Buying gets easier after the loan, but not magically effortless. Once the warranty period fades, the owner becomes responsible for whatever maintenance and repairs show up next. A realistic older car plan usually includes maintenance. Depending on the vehicle and your luck, that can average roughly $1,200 to $1,800 a year. The key is expecting it, not pretending it won't happen. This is where the conversation gets more honest. Ownership may bring occasional repair bills. Leasing brings highly predictable payments. The right question is not which one is painless, it's which kind of friction fits you better. Buying usually feels best when it sits on top of a decent financial cushion. If every repair would create stress, the ownership path may be mathematically solid but emotionally harder to carry. The later the car gets, the less dramatic the value decline usually becomes. That doesn't make it valuable forever. It just means long-term use can become more rational than constant replacement. This is also where identity shows up. A newer car can signal success. A paid-off car can create quieter peace. Those are not the same thing, and plenty of smart people confuse them. One underrated benefit of buying is timing control. Once the car is yours, replacement stops being a scheduled event and becomes a decision you can make when it genuinely fits your life.
Buying is not a fairy tale. Higher early payments, depreciation, and maintenance are all real, but so is the long-term payoff. And once we stretch this decision to 10 years, the difference becomes much easier to feel. Once you zoom out to 10 years, this stops being a payment comparison and becomes a lifestyle pattern comparison. One path keeps refreshing the car, the other keeps deepening control over time. If Liam keeps leasing through the decade, he can easily spend roughly $45,000 to $52,000, depending on terms and fees, and still end that stretch without a car he owns. Noah's decade is not free. With the loan and realistic maintenance, he may still spend around $44,000 to $48,000, but he also still has a working car worth roughly $4,000 to $6,000. That's the second big flip. Over 10 years, buying and holding can land in a similar spending range to constant leasing, but the buyer still has an asset at the end. Time keeps changing the winner.
Run this pattern across an adult life, and the gap can become very large. Not because one choice feels dramatic in a single month, but because repeated structure compounds for years. This is where the emotional difference matters. Leasing can keep the car feeling current. Buying can create more room, more patience, and more choice later. Those benefits are quieter, but they are powerful. Now, this does not mean leasing is automatically the wrong choice. There are cases where it can be perfectly rational. The key is knowing whether you actually fit one of those cases. A good finance decision is not about defending one camp forever. It's about matching the structure to the person. And there are a few profiles where leasing can genuinely work well. For some business owners, lease payments can interact more favorably with business expenses. That does not make leasing universally better. It just means the after-tax math can look different in a work setting. Leasing can also make sense with some luxury vehicles, especially when out-of-warranty repairs are known to be expensive. In that case, you may be paying for protection as much as transportation. There is another interesting exception. If a person leases, then truly invests the monthly savings difference with discipline, the outcome can shift. The math changes when the saved cash actually keeps working. Over enough years, even a few $100s a month can become meaningful if it is invested consistently. But this is a behavior story, not just a spreadsheet story. And this is why the investing argument is often weaker in real life than on paper. Many people do not invest the difference every month. They simply absorb it into everyday spending. So yes, leasing can absolutely make sense in some situations. But for most drivers, the decision still comes down to one deeper question. What does this really cost once the full cycle is complete? The real danger is making a $30,000 decision using only a monthly payment lens. That number matters, but by itself it is far too small to carry the whole decision. A newer car can broadcast comfort, success, and freshness, but that is not the same as control. Control often looks quieter, fewer obligations, more flexibility, and more room when life shifts. If you remember one sentence from this whole video, let it be this: what does this actually cost me when it's all over? That question usually leads to much better car decisions. There is no universal winner for every driver. Your miles, your cash cushion, your self-discipline, your business context, and how long you keep cars all change the answer. So let's finish with something useful, a simple framework you can use before you sign anything. Not personal advice, just a clearer way to think. Here's the framework.
Before you compare offers, answer 5 things: how long you'll keep the car, how much you drive, how strong your cash buffer is, what your habits look like, and what you want at the end. Start with horizon. If you truly switch cars every few years, leasing can look more reasonable. If you tend to keep cars longer, buying usually gets stronger very quickly. Next, mileage and life volatility. If your driving is predictable and modest, leasing is easier to manage. If your life changes fast or your miles run high, ownership often gives you more breathing room. Then ask about your cushion. Buying is often the better long-term structure, but it feels best when a repair bill would be annoying, not destabilizing. Finally, be honest about behavior and endings. Will you invest the savings or just spend them? And at the end, do you want to hand the car back or still have something useful in your driveway?
So here's the clean summary. Leasing is often smoother early. Buying is often stronger later. Neither option is automatically smart or foolish. The right one depends on what kind of trade-off you are actually choosing. If this video did its job, you won't look at a car payment the same way again. You'll look past the headline and ask the better question first. That's really the goal here, not to chase the flashiest option, but to make a calmer decision with a fuller picture. That usually leads to better outcomes and fewer surprises. If this helped you see the car math more clearly, I'd love to have you here for the next one. You can like, subscribe, and stick around, because we're building practical financial clarity, one decision at a time. Thanks for watching. I hope this gave you a clearer lens for one of the most common money decisions people make. Use it as education, match it to your own life, and I'll see you in the next video.